Okay.
Just to begin, was there ever going to be another career path for you other than music?
Was there ever, or is there ever?
Or what was there ever in your younger days?
No, because I started music so early. I was writing songs at 15 or 16 and pretty dedicated to doing that, and really had no interest in college or anything else. So I don't even know what I would have done. I didn't. I was lucky to know that young what I wanted to do, I think.
For sure, yeah. Was there a moment in time that you can pinpoint where it all clicked for you, where you suddenly developed a self-confidence in your songwriting?
It took a long time. I would say 10 years of writing, probably from my teenage years to my mid-20s. I think when Linda Ronstadt first decided to record my songs, that was like a big validation for me. I mean, you always hope that your songs are good, but really until someone else kind of, verifies that, it's sort of, for me, that was really a moment, and it was prior to my own album coming out, that, made me feel like I'd really kind of achieved something I was trying to achieve.
Yeah. Looking back at those early days in the music scene in Los Angeles, what are your strongest memories of those times with so much emerging talent around, and it must have been an inspiring environment to work in?
It was amazing, and most of this went on at a club called the Troubadour that was in West Hollywood, and it's still there actually, but I think, it was a different climate, anything was possible, and the music business wasn't such a business, so, it was a very creative time, and, I don't think we knew at the time we were, in such a great period, but looking back, I can see that now, and so many great people came up at that club, Jackson Browne, Eagles, Linda Ronstadt. I mean, the list is endless, and many people, got their record deals playing open mic nights in that club.
You did quite a few open mic nights yourself there. Tell us about that experience and what it did for your confidence, not only as a songwriter but as a on-stage performer.
The first ones I did, I was quite young, probably 16 or 17. I had a duo with my sister Lisa. So those were my first experiences ever getting on stage. Very terrified, very scared. I can remember coming off stage and not even remembering anything that just happened. It was intense, but something I think I drove myself to do. Really, those were the kinds of places where we learned our skill. And in those days, because there was no digital recording at home, I mean, that's how you got good. You got up in front of people and you had to play the guitar or play the piano or put a band together, or, you had to sort of have your act together. Mm-hmm. You couldn't just kind of fake it with digital recording at home. So I think we all got really good by doing that, for sure.
Was it a particularly competitive environment amongst the musicians there in those days?
It wasn't. It was really kind of camaraderie and supportive, and I mean, I have to say everyone was driven and hungry to be successful, and, that's what we were doing, but it wasn't competitive in that kind of way. I think it was more inspired. A lot of people were starting to write with each other, and different bands were forming and reforming, and so I think there was just a lot of creativity, really, more than being competitive.
Yeah, a healthy competition in a way.
Yes.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess a sense of community would have developed amongst you all too.
It did, I think, because in a lot of ways people had come from other states to California, and, many of us were the black sheep in our families trying to do this back in those days, and, not going to college or not doing whatever was prescribed. And so we were kind of like, we were all sort of teammates in a way, kind of trying to blaze this music trail.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brindle, and what were the circumstances that saw that first album back in 1970 go unreleased?
We were on A&M Records, and I don't think they quite knew what to do with us. It was sort of before Fleetwood Mac and before kind of boy-girl bands like that, and they couldn't quite figure out how to place us, and so they tried to make us into the Mamas and Papas and had their Mamas and Papas producer produce us, and that didn't work. And I think in some ways the band was before its time, and they just didn't really know how to handle it, so they decided to let us go, because I think they had to, in order to pick up our contract, they had to give us a whole bunch of money or something. So we disbanded and kind of went our separate ways at that point.
Over the years, have you ever pondered what might have been had that album found release at that time?
Oh, yeah, we all did. I think we all regretted that we didn't hang in there with it longer. And, you know, I mean, I don't think, honestly, that record was ready, but I think if they'd let us work at it another year and write some better songs, we would have gotten ready. We just weren't given that opportunity. We were really pretty young. We were all 19, 20, 21. So I think we needed a little more time, and it just got, I don't know, time kind of ran out, and Wendy Waldman was the most kind of progressed of all of us and developed, so she got offered a solo deal at Warner Brothers, so that kind of ended the band. But we all regretted it, and is why we went back later to make more albums, because we felt that, you know, we'd missed an opportunity.
Is that record ever likely to see the light of day, or are the tapes still in existence?
Well, I think they are. They belong to A&M, I guess, so there must be somewhere. I mean, although tape at this point would be disintegrating unless somebody's transferred it, so I have no idea what the status of it is. We don't own it. So, like I said, we weren't happy with the, you know, it wasn't ever really mixed and completed, so it wasn't really something we wanted released. So, you know, it's hard to say. I haven't heard it in so long.
Yeah. Like many songwriters, I'm guessing that your first solo album contained a collection of songs that you had in your stockpile from your songwriting up to that date. With your second album, was there a bit of extra pressure on you with album number 2 to come up with new songs all of a sudden?
Totally. I mean, because first of all, I was on the road after the first record came out a lot. And then you're supposed to come off the road and be ready to make a record. And, you know, I was never that prolific anyway, so it was a lot of pressure and very difficult for me in a way I really had to just, you know, put my nose to the grindstone and do the best I could with it. And looking back, I think it's a good album, the second one. And the music business, you know, once you kind of get into that on a label and there's a pressure to make records in a certain amount of time and come up with singles, and I wasn't really very well prepared for that emotionally, so I rebelled against it to some extent because I didn't quite know how to handle it. But ultimately, that's kind of the, you know, that's the road you get on once you were in that kind of world with a record deal, and I didn't do well under the pressure. You know, maybe some other people did.
Somebody you worked very closely with through the years and was very dear to you, I'm sure, was Kenny Edwards. It must be hard to put into words just what he contributed to your life and career as a whole, but maybe you could just tell us what you admired most about him as a person and a musician.
Well, I met Kenny when I was 16, and he was already, you know, an established musician. He'd been in the Stone Ponies with Linda Ronstadt. So to me, he was a rock star, and he knew so much about so many kinds of music and played so many instruments, played mandolin and sitar and guitar and bass. And, you know, he was just an incredible musician in so many ways. So to meet him, I was so fortunate to meet him and be able to play music with him. And over the years, he, you know, produced my albums and played on the road with me. And he was also just a really incredible person. He just knew, you know, about everything, about art and books and music and architecture. And so, you know, he taught me a lot about just the world and about everything, about songwriting. He was a great producer. So it's a huge loss for so many of us. He was always kind of in the background, and I think a lot of people didn't realize how much he contributed to Linda Ronstadt's career and to my career, and Jackson Browne, Don Henley, a lot of people who he, you know, helped write and, you know, play on the records. And so he was a behind-the-scenes but very powerful force, I think.
Unsung hero, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it was through Kenny that your songs obviously found their way to Linda Ronstadt, and as you said earlier, it gave you a great sense of validation as a songwriter. Do you remember the first time you heard those recordings of Linda's?
I think that I was probably around in the studio, so I probably heard them as they were being developed. I heard one of them, Lose Again, they were playing live before they ever recorded, so I heard her do that, live and in concert before she recorded it. The other ones I can't remember exactly, but probably as they were recording, because Kenny was playing on those, and I'm sure I was hearing cassette mixes and things as they went along.
Now, aside from Linda Ronstadt, your songs have also been covered by so many others. Do you have any personal favourites?
Oh, gosh, that's so hard. I think I've been lucky to have really wonderful artists record my songs, and they've all been so good. God, that's so hard to say. I do think that Linda's version of Lose Again was a really great record. I love Wynona's version of Tell Me Why. I thought she did a fantastic job with that. And actually Bonnie Raitt's version of Home, that was probably the first song of mine that anyone recorded, even prior to Linda Ronstadt. So that one kind of holds a special place in my heart because it was first.
The first, yeah. Have any interpretations of your songs by other artists caused you to see that song in a whole new light?
No, not really. I think most of them have stayed pretty true to my versions, and they really weren't that. There's one that was actually just thought of something. Alison Krauss did a bluegrass version of Lose Again, which was not something I would ever have imagined. So I would say that one definitely led me to imagine it in a new way.
Yeah. I read another interview with you where you stated that you've never really been driven by ambition in your music career. Do you see that as a reason, as probably why you haven't enjoyed the high profile of some of your contemporaries?
Probably. I think it takes a lot of drive and a lot of ambition, and you really have to want it, and and you have to kind of grab that brass ring when it's there. And as we were talking about before, when I was on that big label and had all that behind me, I was kind of confused by all of it. And, I think in some ways I missed that great opportunity to sort of go for it. I think a musician's career in some ways, it's like an athlete's in the sense that there's maybe you get this 10-year period where you have your shot, and it's when you really need to kind of max it out. And I was struggling with a lot of other kinds of things emotionally, and so I look back now and go, wow, I really didn't take that opportunity to just focus on the work and only the work. And I think that would have made a difference for me. And so I have some regret about that. On the other hand, probably being more famous would have carried some kind of baggage with it as well. So, it's kind of a trade-off. I grew up in LA, and I think to some extent we took for granted sort of being in the music business, and I find that some of us that were there were a little more casual about it than people that sort of moved to Los Angeles to make it, and we were a little more relaxed about it. So I don't know, it's hindsight's 20/20, but
yeah.
I think that I was never like, oh, I have to have this or I won't be able to, live. I enjoyed other parts of my life and being home with my animals and gardening, and I didn't love being on the road all that much. And, which isn't true for some other people. I know people who they love being on the road and they love performing every night. So I had kind of, I liked having other parts of my life too.
And I guess the success you've had with your songs being covered by others successfully has helped you in the sense that it's given you that freedom not to have to work yourself as hard, particularly with touring, just to survive as other artists do.
Right. Yeah, and that's the huge difference. If you're writing songs, you have income from that, and it's a great way to have that to fall back on for sure. But these days all that's changing too, just because of digital and record sales, and so I'm still touring in the States pretty regularly, not weeks at a time, but weekends at a time.
Also heard you say, also in another interview, that at times you have struggled with songwriting. So you don't believe songwriting is something at any point becomes easier with experience?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's always, to dig down deep and really, for me, pull out songs is always kind of emotional, and sometimes you don't really want to go there. And I mean, you get better at the form and all of that kind of thing, but I think you also get your standards get higher in terms of what you expect from yourself and what you have to live up to, and so it gets harder in that sense, which is just, you want everything to be great, and it's harder and harder to write things that are mediocre, and so it can turn into difficult because of that, but and it requires a discipline too. You have to write every day, and sometimes I'm just don't want to. I'm lazy, So it's a combination of just oh, I don't want to do that right now. So I procrastinate a lot, and but and it's I don't know. Writing is, I think, for anybody can be a challenge at times.
Sure. I guess writing on the road is something that you would struggle with also. It's something you have to be at home base for?
Writing, most of the time we're just traveling or sleeping, so it just doesn't seem like there's any time. Sometimes it's sound checks, when things sound really good and you have a big grand piano and we start playing. Sometimes I find those are times that we can write bits and pieces of music. But most of the time it's schedule just for me doesn't allow it. There just isn't time.
Talk about your touring these days. Are you touring primarily solo?
I play with a girl guitar player. Her name is Nina Gerber, a really excellent guitar player. So it's the two of us. Prior to her and I doing it was the three of us, her and Kenny Edwards and I, until he passed away. We played as a trio. So it's two of us, but it makes quite a bit of music. She's an incredible guitar player and plays almost like a string player at times. She's just amazing.
No, I know Nina well. She's an excellent player. She has a lot of experience playing with singer-songwriter types too, which must be a perfect fit for you.
Yes. Oh God, I've had to play shows without her, and I don't like it. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Before I let you go, Karla, some advice for young songwriters, just learning the trade now. What would be your main piece of advice to give them?
Well, I mean, if you want to learn from my mistakes, I would say the most important thing is to write every day and to not judge yourself, to write something and don't worry about whether it's good or bad. Even if it's just writing in a journal, it doesn't have to be writing music and songs, but to just have that skill of writing kind of come to you naturally every day and to be in the habit of that. I think a lot of the key to songwriting is just doing it and making it a habit. And it's like exercising. It's easy to get out of the habit and then you don't do it anymore. So that would be the main thing I would say, is to just develop really good habits about it. And then the songs will come. So
you're a subscriber to the theory that sometimes you have to work your way through 10 or 12 not so good songs to get to a great one?
Well, hopefully not that many, but maybe 3 or 4. Yeah. Or you might get pieces of things and then they go together and, there's just no telling, you get a line, but you just have to be doing it. And I wish that when I was younger, that I did that more. That would have been good for me.
Sure. And just finally, upcoming plans. What can we expect any new recordings on the horizon?
I have a few new songs and I'm working on putting them down. I'm kind of slow at it, but I'm hoping to have that, in the next 6 months or so. Just doing that. And, like I said, the touring that we do, probably once a month we're out there on the road, and I'm hoping we can come to Australia sometime.
I don't think we've had the pleasure of having you down here, have we?
No, you have to help me out with that.
Oh, I'll see what I can do. I must send you some information. We'd love to have you down here. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, we would love to come so much. That would be great.
Karla, thanks so much for your time, and thank you for all the wonderful songs over the years, and I'm sure there's still plenty more to come.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you.
And you too. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.